It is that time again where we're going over beginner build orders. We're going to start off with Japanese. So if you haven't seen some of my videos like this before, we're going to be going over the easy build orders for each god to play, or more each civilization, and then you should be able to play everything. So we're starting off with the Japanese because I haven't made a video since they've been out so far. So we've got the first three that are going to come over to the food. So that's going to be all three commoners that spawn, go straight over to the watermill. You also start with the Miko, and the Miko just wants to build a shrine. So you can hit your shrine button. So mine is E. Whack that next to a wood line, and happy days. Your next one comes over to gold, as we're going to be needing a gold mine to put up a temple. So you need to build a mining camp next to that one, and you build a water mill next to the wood. So the Japanese are kind of unique here. So we have water mills for food and wood, and then mining camps for gold. Gold only. So it's 3, 1, then 2. 2 come over to our wood line. I've just sent my Kitsune just to do whatever he wants. So kind of just scout around. If you don't want to do that, you can hit this button. He auto scouts. Absolutely fine. And move back over here for the gold. So the reason that we do this is because we don't want as much gold as putting 2 here and then 2 over here. So we kind of just do a 1, 2, 1 situation. And then from here, it's pretty simple. We're going to be moving back over to the food. And one thing we do need to do at some point is whack down a house. To be honest, you can do it with the wood guy as soon as he comes over here, or wood girl in this case. So remember to drop that house. In pretty much every build order, you can wait until the noise. At 11 out of 15 population, there is a noise telling you you're going to need population at some point, and that's probably when is best to do that. And you can see we're getting close to a temple, which is exactly what we want. And the next 7 actually go on food, so it's up to 10, which is the most out of any civilization, just because we're going to need to spend a bit more food later on. The Miko can also build a temple, so depending on what strategy you're going for, building the temple with the Miko normally makes sense, because she's going to lose out on probably 4 or 5 favor doing this. You can build them with a gold villager if you'd prefer to have the favor for whatever reason, that's absolutely fine too. But I like to do it with the Miko. She's normally put it in a defensive spot around some of her cherry trees that she's made. Might be quite nice. And we're still getting food out until we get up to 10. And then I also just shift-click her back over to the shrine, because that's how she gathers favor. Basically, getting more resources in this circle is what you're after. And I like it on a wood line normally, and next to a gold mine, or maybe a wood line and a food situation. You could also do it here to do the food, which we will do in a minute. So we're going to have one more villager pop out to get to 10. So there'll be 10 after this one. And when the 10th one shows up, we want to hit W, or at least it's W for me. You can also just click her face there, because we want an extra Miko out. And all of these guys will be gathering food for us. And then the Miko is going to come over here. You can even turn off auto queue if you want to. Right click to turn it off, or you can alt Q. And this is the only civilization where we have to force drop. I couldn't make it work without force dropping, unfortunately. If you get one more villager out, it's not the biggest deal. And then we just come over here, we drop our shrine down wherever we want. And because we've got 10 on food, that is kind of a lot. So we just want to move some over to the wood, and then probably one over to the gold. Something along those lines. Absolutely fine. That gives you enough resources to then drop double building down when we get up to the next stage. I'm just going to zoom through it. You could also get this upgrade here, which makes your Mikos be able to collect relics. That's pretty important. Choose whichever god you really want to go for. There's no problem. For some reason, her shift click didn't work. We should have had more gold at this point. But when we get up to the next stage, we can just drop down whatever buildings we're after. So say we want a dojo, and we want an archery range. Something like that, or a guardhouse, whatever it's called. And then you can just spam some dudes out, and happy days. So we're keeping on the DLC train here, as I feel like these ones have actually changed the most. So that is what we're going to do, is go for the Chinese. What you want to do is get your peasant over here first to build a silo. Your Kwafu builds a house, and then builds another silo next to the gold mine. And I think this is probably the civilization where you need to do the most in the archaic age. And we're also killing this hippopotamus next to a silo. You wouldn't really need to do this, but what I want to do is show that we have the resources no matter what. You could drag these hippos underneath the base very easily, and then you wouldn't need to build this. But I'm just showing it off because if you've got a map where there's gazelles or elks or what have you, you need to build a silo anyway. So we just want to make sure that that's happening. With your Pioneer, you can just shift click around wherever you want. Also hit Q occasionally to get your Sky Lanterns in, but we're not really going to be bothering with him for the time being. And your Kwafu, we want to build a house like this so it gains the maximum amount of favor, because that is going to matter a little bit later. And our Kwafu, we want to build or gather gold until we get 250. 250 is that magic number, because it means we have enough to build a second Kwafu and a temple, and then we're going to do something else with this guy. And another magic number is going to be 7, which is right now, so we can afford another Kwafu. So 7 total will be coming over to the food. Just before that 7th one comes out, we want another Kwafu to come out, and he is going to go to that gold mine. And as that happens, as we set him up to go to the gold mine, we're going to move our Kwafu over to build a silo next to the wood, as we want to get enough wood to build a temple. And this Kwafu, because he takes quite a long time to build, we already have the 150 to build the temple. He's going to come over here because we are going to build a third Kwafu a little bit later on. And this is what I mean. I think this build has probably changed the most. And just one more thing to do: if you have aggressive animals, you want to come over here, make sure to pull the next one under while the other ones are still working, which is one of those minor things. And then if you do use the town center to attack, just make sure to set your waypoint back up on this gold mine over here. Then our Kwafu buddy is going to come over. And I've left a bit of a big gap here, which is what you can do to let your Kwafus in, as they are kind of beefier than a normal villager. And speaking of normal villagers, the next 2 normal villagers to come over are going to be on this gold mine right here. And after those 2 come out, after this one, there should be enough favor to gather another Kwafu. And yes, there is, right on schedule. This is why this house is so important, to just give us a little bit more favor income. And then while this guy is out, we're going to be building a temple. You don't really need to force drop there. We had enough to wait. I tried to make these builds with as little force dropping as possible. So any force dropping that you've seen from this Chinese one, you don't need. It's only the Japanese that you need 1 force drop, and that is it to get up to the next stage. And our Kwafu is actually going to come over here onto the gold, and then this new one's going to come over to the wood line, and then we're just going to choose whichever god we want. Sure, we'll go how to. She sounds like a good one. And you can pretty much leave everything where it is. Maybe if you want to, you could move some of the food villagers over and over to the other side, depending on what you're after. If you're going for a town center, normally what you want to do with most civs is take all of them off, but 2 or 3 off of the food, and then split them evenly between wood and gold. Or if you're on kind of 1 TC ideas, then you can leave it something like this. Maybe you can just bring another one over for our wood here, and then we'll be able to drop a couple of barracks down, very similar to before. We can be grabbing another Pioneer, even get the Divine Light upgrade here to be able to collect this relic like Hermes Wing Sandal. Building houses around wherever you want. You can put them to get extra favor, but at this point it isn't as important as earlier. And then you can also be getting extra Kwafus out. Just depends what you really want to go for. Whack some barracks down, and then you're going to set yourself up nicely for a classical fight and apparently knock your Kwafu up along the way. We're now onto the OG civs now. Start off with the Greeks, and the Greeks is probably the easiest build order there is. They are kind of the vanilla default civ. Our first 4 are going to build a granary around whatever hunterfuls there are. This time it is gazelles. And then the next 2 are going to come over to this gold mine on this top side. As you can see, the Greeks don't start with much gold, but they start with a lot of wood. So it means that our first 2 are going to come over to the gold mine, because we want to get that to build a temple. So it costs 150. So it's going to take a while. And we also, the wood we do need, but it's not as important. So that's why we come over to the gold. The reason I'm kind of saying this is often people say, why are we doing these things? Not just I want to follow it, but why? So the basic idea is we want 400 food, and we need 150 wood and gold to build a temple. And that is it. And then an extra 50 to build 1 house. So we want 200 wood, 150 gold, and then 400 food, plus however many villages we're building. Which is why there'll be a lot on the food. And if you want to see an easy to read version of this, then on my Discord I will be sharing that as well. You can leave these guys to do whatever they want, but I like to be efficient with it because there's not too much to do in the archaic age. If you just want to leave them to their own devices, that's also fine. So we do the 4, 2, and then 2. And then the next couple are going to come over here to the food. Before we need to make another decision. And then what I like to do, or at least if you have kind of less multitasking, what you can do is when you know that you need to leave 2 or more on one resource, then you have 30 seconds to kind of move your Catascopus around or have a look on the map for relics and things. And as soon as this one flashes up, it means that we need a house. So our villager is going to build a house and then come back over here. Just shift click to bring him back. You can hit your house hotkey. I think it's Q for most people. It's E for me because I've changed them up. Or you can click on the picture. It's not a big deal. It's whatever you prefer to do. And our scout's going to stop there. So he has had enough. Ideally, you would run him around a little bit longer. And we also have enough for a temple, and that is this new villager's task, as the Greeks do need temples being gathered, if that's the right word. They need to be preyed upon to gather resources, so we've got one villager doing that. Is absolutely fine. And then we're actually going to, the next couple are going to move over to the wood line, as when we get up to the next stage, we want to be having enough wood to build maybe 2 barracks, or a barracks and an archery range, or an archery range and a stable, or whatever version of that you would like. And there'll be one more villager will come out, and the temple shall be finished. And then we're going to be able to get up to the next stage at a reasonable time. You can go earlier than this if you really want to. I would just need to switch up the build a little bit to get a temple out sooner, but not a big deal. Hermes is going to be the god that we're choosing, and you don't really need to do much here. One thing that I like to do is move one food villager over here to the gold, because it means you're going to be able to afford your Heracles and things like that. You can get your Jason out now. Jason trains really, really quickly. So our Jason is going to pop out. Our Jason can just come over here, grab the increase wall, relic, whatever. And just like before, we're just going to speed up at this point. If you wanted to go for something like centaurs, you could just move another villager over to the temple. Probably one of these gold miners, or one of the food villagers over there, depending on what else you want to build. And now we're up to this next stage. Say we want to go for some horses, and we want to go for some archers. So just grab a couple of those, drop those back. We can also get our Heracles out. Heracles trains at the same time as a villager, so that one's very, very nice. And then we've got our kind of core units, our heroes. We've got a couple of buildings here. I also like to build houses with my guy praying, or girl praying, up in this case. And as we're Zeus, we can get Olympian parentage. We just get the winged messenger. Why not? Next on the list, we have the Egyptians, which is one of my favorite pantheons to play. And straight away, we want to be building our monument to the villagers, and then shift-clicking over to a granary. And those guys, we can just leave them to it. If we have multiple scouts, we can just move them around to do whatever they please. And the next couple that are going to come out, the next 2 are going to build a mining camp on this side. We also want to make sure that our pharaoh is actually on the granary. Sometimes shift-click kind of messes up. And you just want to make sure that he is on the granary rather than the monument to the villagers, as you don't really care about extra favor currently. You more care about getting extra food resources in. And that's going to be the mining camp built up. And unlike other civilizations, we don't need wood. We have 100 wood here, and we really don't need it. So we're going to be moving over the next one over to our food. Just going to do some funky stuff, killing deers around the granary, but again, you don't really need to do that. Then after that one's gone to food, we're going to come over here, and we're going to grab a house real quick. As if we're set, which I am now, we can convert animals, things like that, which means that we're going to need to drop a house relatively soon. Again, click on the house, shift click over to the gold mine. And that is all good. I think this version that I'm making now compared to the pro builds, I think the Egyptians is probably the one which is the most different. Most other ones are so similar to what the competitive build orders are anyway, because they're relatively simple. But the Egyptians can be a little bit complicated because you need to force drop quite a lot of things. Something you can do is, if you want to change this one to be more competitive, is you can gather 20 wood quite early, and then hit Q on your mining camp, grab pickaxe quite early, just so you get more gold income in. It nets you a small amount of resources, but it's just, yeah, it's something that some of the high level players do. And we've got, so we're going to be up to 7. So our 7th one will be coming out now. And the next one, very similar to the Greeks, is going to come out and build our temple. And now she can't pray at the temple. How you gather favor from the Egyptians is with the monument. So we can see that we've already got 10 of it. But she will then, or he, it's a he, will grab this one here. And then what you can do, click your house button, hold shift, and you can actually drop all your houses very, very early on. Something that a lot of players like to do is put them around their, build them around their towers, or you can build walls, basically whatever the map allows. And I would just shift click this guy and let him just finish up. Why not? Then you don't have to worry about population for the entirety of, I don't know, the early game. Our next couple of villagers are going to come over to a wood line. And then at this point, I would pre-queue this pickaxe, because pickaxe is very important, and as you want to gather a lot of gold being Egyptians, because all your buildings cost gold instead of wood like they do for other civilizations. So it's a good thing to start doing. And we are actually going to advance to the next stage very, very soon. You see, we don't even need to force drop, even if pickaxe comes through. And we're going to choose our god. And then the only thing I would really do here is move over 1 or 2 villagers over to this gold mine. I think is a pretty good option. And the pharaoh can also come over at the same time. As what we want to do here is gather more gold to drop a couple of barracks down. We also want to grab one of these gold miners and, I don't know, whack a monument down somewhere. We're going to whack it down over this way. Monument to the soldiers. If you're set, then these monuments need to be spread out and you put your barracks down. If you're Isis, you want something similar because it will be able to block god powers. If you're Ra, I just think you can put them around anywhere, really, wherever you want. I think around here would be fine. No problem. I'm just going to zoom up to the next stage so we can see what we're dropping down here. Zoom, zoom, zoom. We can also grab an extra priest. We can do similar to the other gods. We can grab our hand of the pharaohs. Again, we're going to need a lot of gold income as Egyptians. And he can build that one, shift click back to the gold mine. He can build that one, shift click back to the gold mine. It's probably a pretty dodgy position, but in an ideal world, we probably would have grabbed them around this side, but we're not going to build 4. And then this will allow us to grab some slingers, some spearmen, whatever you want to get a classical age started off. Okay, next up is the Norse, and straight away we're going to move over to the food like we do for pretty much every civ, except one difference is you do start with an ox cart, which we're going to bring over and click on whichever deer we have killed off. And the first dwarf that gets built, we're going to manually queue 1 dwarf and then auto queue gatherers, and this ox cart that's just been built is going to move over to the gold mine. We do this because we want the dwarf to be maximizing his time gathering gold, because he's a little bit more important than just a normal gatherer. It's because he gathers so quick. And our next 2 villagers are going to move over to our wood line here. And we're going to send our berserk just out and about. We do want to keep him somewhat close. We can't have him over the other side of the map unless it's very, very early, because he will need to build houses for us and things like that. But you can probably get about half of the map covered before you have to come back. And we're basically going to be grabbing a dwarf whenever we can afford one. Maybe I'll even put it on auto queue just for the time being, just so I can see exactly what it's going to look like, and we can all see what dwarfs we can get and what we can't. But we are only going to need 3 before we turn off that auto queue. So it just depends whether you want to manually queue them up 3 times and then turn them off or not. I personally prefer to manually task them, but it's each to their own. I've seen people do both. It's completely up to you. Now the next 2 are going to move over here to the food, and then we'll be able to grab a dwarf after that again. And this is probably the time that I'm going to start to bring my berserk back home, because I know that I'm going to need to build a house. It's going to flash at me to tell me that I need to build a house, and it's good to be in range from there, I would say. And as that 3rd dwarf is coming out, this is when we want to turn off the auto queue just by right-clicking it, because we only need 3, because we need to spend that gold at some point to build a temple before we get the fourth dwarf out a little bit later. House is going to come down with our berserk friend. And we'll start moving back over to the food as well. Now the same here, we don't quite have the gold to build the temple, but we don't want the berserk to be out and about unless maybe you hadn't scouted this yet. That's absolutely fine. But everything that I've scouted so far, apart from this tiny black spot that doesn't have anything in, is not worth going to, because we definitely want to be around to build our temple. And it's still just going to be more on the food up until we get 150 gold, which is the magic number. It's enough to build a temple. So we can hit T. It's T for me. I don't know what it is for others. Maybe it's R or something along those lines. But maybe it is T for temple. But mine's very basic. It's T for temple, W for wall, and things like that. And now this is when we can turn the auto queue for dwarves back on. Or we can just manually click it at this point. Again, personal preference, whatever you really want to do. But there'll be one more coming over to the wood here. That's what we want to do. Grab one to the wood line. And then the last dwarf coming over here will go to the gold mine. And we shouldn't need to force drop anything. It should be nice and simple. When we get that 400 food, we will be advancing to the next stage. We're going to turn off the auto queue just in case we need to force drop, but we don't. And we're going to go Ula. Why not? And then turn off the auto queue for the dwarves. Whack on the gatherers. And that's going to be it. And then what we do want to do here is just move a couple more over to the wood line. And then when we reach the next stage, we can start building some. So we want to build some hearses out of the temple. And when we get to the next stage, we want to drop some barracks down or some great halls, whatever we want to do. And that'll be it for the Norse pantheon. Last but not least, we have the Atlanteans. And these are probably the easiest to really work here. We're going to send our oracles out. And when they move to this position, we're just going to send them out to kind of gather us some favor and to get some line of sight. You can just keep moving those. If you have a scout button, you can just hit it, a find scout. I mean, mine's on P because that's what it was from the original game. It's a disgusting hotkey. I wouldn't want that one. If you want to set it up for something else, I would recommend it. But the first two, as always, move over to the food. And we have enough resources to drop a mana straight away. The mana is the house of the Atlanteans. So I just drop it with the gold miner. Just so I just forget about it. It's already up. We don't have to build a mana then. It doesn't matter. You don't need enough gold early on to need something else. So just build the mana, move over to the gold mine. Happy days. The next villager to come out will be a woodline villager. So it'll be 2-1-1. As the Atlantean citizens are worth 2 normal villagers. So it's the equivalent of what we've been doing with all the other civilizations. Very similar to the Greeks. We've gone 4, 2, and 2. Basically. Now the next couple are going to come over to the food. And this is what I mean. You can manually find them, move them to the edge of the square. Edge of the circle is my favorite thing to do because it means that they keep enough line of sight as they move along. And it's just an easy place to kind of take them to rather than clicking way outside of it, because as they move, they lose line of sight and you want to maximize the amount of favor you get, and also it's just easier to scout that kind of way. Then when you see one highlight with this little square, you can move them again. But that's going to be the end of the oracles for now. We can leave them alone so we can see what's happening in our main base. And the next one will be coming over to the food. And we'll task the next one to move over to the wood. And as soon as we get 150, we're going to be building a temple with the gold miner. So that's going to be this guy. This fella's going to build me a temple, and then shift click back over to the gold mine. And this works for every civ. If you're Chronos, though, it will build slightly quicker because that is his jam. He builds quicker next to manas, so it's a good shout, but it's also good for Aranos and Gaia to build it next to your gold mine with a gold miner anyway. One more guy will come over to the wood, which is what we've said. And then our next one, a little zoom in, will come over to the gold mine. So it'll be a 4-2-2 split, and then we will advance to the next stage very, very shortly. Who will we go through? We're going to go Prometheus. I like a bit of Prometheus. He's quite fun. Now, what this build does allow you to do is grab a oracle pretty much now. I think it's about now. Should be able to promote to the hero. So this one's going to be a hero very shortly. And that means that he can grab a relic. You want to be grabbing relics whenever you can. And I would only advise doing one, just because otherwise you're going to be spending a lot of resources when you don't really need to, and the oracle's going to come back. Over here, if you're really keen on favor, you can also grab another oracle to do something down there, and then we're just going to build the houses and the barracks and everything when we get up to the next stage. But that is going to be everything, each of the pantheons. If you want to see a very simple to read version on my Discord, then feel free. I'll also just put a screenshot up now, and you can just screenshot it for yourself. And that's going to be it. I will be making another one of these when the Aztecs drop, so we'll see you then. And if I haven't made one, just ping me and I'll make one.